They thought it was just an abandoned house, a fun dare, one night inside, and then they'd laugh it off. But the moment they stepped through the door, the house came alive, watching, waiting. Every mirror in that place held something wrong, reflections that moved too slow, smiles that didn't belong. And then, one by one, the mirrors began to take them. What started as a harmless game turned into a nightmare of whispers, shadows, and something that wanted more than just their reflections. It was supposed to be just another abandoned house. At least, that's what 17-year-old Clara thought when she and her friends dared each other to spend one night inside. The house had been empty for nearly 50 years. Its last owner disappearing without a trace. But when Clara pushed open the rotting wooden door, she felt something shift, like the air itself had teeth. The place smelled of damp wood and iron, as though the walls had been soaking in secrets. The group laughed it off, but the laughter felt too loud in the silence. Dust hung in the air like fog, and every floorboard groaned as if the house remembered the weight of those who'd walked before them. In the front hall, a massive mirror leaned against the wall, cracked down the middle. Clara swore she saw something move inside it, not her reflection, but something behind her, something tall and wrong. When she spun around, the hallway was empty. Her best friend Jonah nudged her. "Come on, don't wimp out now. It's just shadows." But the shadows in this house didn't move like normal shadows. They seemed to breathe. As night fell, they lit candles. Electricity hadn't worked in the place for decades. But the flames bent strangely, always leaning toward the same corner of the room, as though pulled by an invisible mouth, inhaling. Then came the first sound, a knock, not from outside, not from the door. It came from inside the walls. The group froze. Jonah whispered, "Probably rats." But Clara listened closely. No scratching, no skittering. Just deliberate, patient knocks. 1, 2, 3. A pause, then again. The sound grew louder until it wasn't in the walls anymore. It was behind them. The mirror in the hall rattled. The crack widened, splitting across the glass like a mouth opening. For a moment, Clara thought she saw eyes inside it, watching, waiting. Her stomach turned to ice. She wanted to leave, but the door they came through was now swollen shut, as if the wood itself had melted together. The house had swallowed them, and the worst part, Clara realized they weren't the first ones. The candlelight revealed faint words scratched into the wall. Desperate messages from whoever came before. It's not the house. It's what lives inside the mirrors. The group set up their sleeping bags in what used to be the living room. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, yellowed with age, curling like dead skin. A chandelier dangled above them, swaying slightly even though the air was perfectly still. Clara couldn't shake the words etched into the wall. It's not the house. It's what lives inside the mirrors. Her eyes kept drifting to the cracked mirror in the hallway, half expecting the jagged glass to blink at her. "Okay," Jonah said, forcing a grin. "Let's make this fun." Scary stories, marshmallows, urban camping at its finest. But his voice trembled on the edges. Their other friends, Lee and Mason, chuckled nervously, pulling out snacks. They talked too loudly, trying to pretend they weren't afraid. But Clara stayed quiet, her gaze fixed on the dark corners where the candlelight refused to spread. As the night stretched on, the laughter faded. The house seemed to grow colder. Breath misted in front of their faces, even though it was midsummer. The chandelier swayed again, harder this time. Mason frowned. "You guys feel that?" "Feel what?" Lee asked. The floor beneath them gave a subtle shudder, almost like the house had exhaled. "Probably the foundation," Jonah muttered, but even he didn't sound convinced. They decided to explore, candles in hand. Every hallway felt endless, bending into darkness. The air grew thicker with each step, as if they were walking deeper into something alive. At the end of one corridor, they found a door nailed shut with rusted boards. Scratched into the wood were claw-like marks, uneven, frantic. "Why would anyone?" Lee began, but her words cut off, because from the other side of that door came a whisper, not muffled, not faint, clear, as though someone's lips were pressed right against the wood. Clara's skin crawled. The whisper was rhythmic, not in English, but something old, guttural, like a chant. "Back to the living room," she hissed, "now." They stumbled back, nearly tripping over each other. When they returned, something had changed. The mirror, the crack was wider now, zigzagging all the way down to the base, and though the glass was dusty and old, their reflections were wrong. Mason pointed at it with a shaking hand. That's not us." He was right. Their reflections moved a second too late, blinking too slow, smiling too wide. And then, without warning, Jonah's reflection lifted its hand, even though Jonah himself had not. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. The reflection reached toward the other side of the glass, pressing its palm against it. The mirror rippled like water. Jonah stumbled back. What the hell is happening? The reflection didn't retreat. It pressed harder, its hand pushing through the crack, shards slicing around its wrist. Black liquid dripped onto the floor. Lee screamed, the sound piercing through the silence of the house. The candlelight flickered violently, almost extinguished, before steadying again. And then, just like that, the reflection's arm vanished. But something else remained. A smear of black across the inside of the mirror, shaped like a handprint. The group stood frozen. No one spoke. No one breathed. The silence was worse than the whispers had been. Finally, Clara whispered the words she had read again, barely audible. "It's not the house, it's what lives inside the mirrors." The group tried to convince themselves it hadn't happened. That what they saw in the mirror was just a trick of light. Their minds playing games. But no one could explain the black handprint. They huddled together in the living room, candles casting twitching shadows across the walls. Clara couldn't stop staring at the mirror in the hall. It felt like it was leaning closer, as if the glass itself was straining to listen. "We just wait till morning," Jonah whispered. "First light, we're gone." But Clara shook her head. "The door was sealed. We're not leaving." The silence pressed down again, and then another sound. This time it wasn't knocking. It was whispering, faint but layered, as if a dozen voices were murmuring from inside the walls. The words weren't clear, but the intent was unmistakable. They wanted to be heard. Lee clutched her knees, rocking back and forth. "I don't like this. I don't like this at all." Suddenly, Mason's candle went out. He gasped, relighting it quickly with trembling hands. But when the flame returned, the mirror in the hall reflected only 3 figures: Jonah, Lee, and Clara. Mason was missing. He spun toward the glass, eyes wide. Why am I not there? Clara's breath caught. She stepped closer. In the mirror, the hallway behind them wasn't empty. Mason's reflection was standing alone, further back in the shadows. And it was smiling. Mason stumbled back. That's not me. The reflection raised a hand, waving slowly, mockingly. Its mouth stretched into a grin far too wide for a human face. Cracks splintered deeper across the glass. For a moment, Clara thought the reflection would crawl through. Instead, it simply turned and walked away, disappearing into the mirror's hallway. But when they turned to look at the real hallway, it was no longer empty. Footsteps echoed, soft but deliberate. Slow, approaching, run, Clara hissed. They scattered, sprinting deeper into the house. Every turn felt the same. Endless doors, endless corridors. And no matter where they ran, every reflective surface, shattered picture frames, cracked glass, even the black sheen of the windows, showed Mason's reflection following close behind. Not Mason, not anymore. The whispers swelled into laughter. They ran until their lungs burned, the candlelight barely keeping pace with their frantic steps. But the deeper they went, the more the house seemed to twist. Corridors looped into each other. Staircases led back to the same landing, and doors that should have opened into rooms opened only into more darkness. This doesn't make sense, Jonah panted, pressing a trembling hand against the wall. We're going in circles. No, Clara whispered. The house is changing. Behind them, faint footsteps echoed, slow, heavy, and deliberate. Mason's reflection. It was following, but never rushing, as if it knew they had nowhere to go. Lee sobbed quietly. We're trapped, we're trapped. They stopped at a door unlike the others, tall, arched, with carvings etched deep into the wood. Symbols Clara didn't recognize spiraled across it, jagged and sharp like wounds. The handle was cold, almost icy. Don't, Clara warned, but Jonah had already pushed it open. Inside was a room that seemed older than the rest of the house. Dust coated everything, but beneath it lay objects arranged like offerings. Broken dolls, yellowed photographs, and shards of glass stacked neatly in piles. At the center stood another mirror, larger, unbroken, framed in black wood. It hummed. The sound was low, almost beneath hearing, vibrating in their bones. Clara felt her teeth ache just standing near it. Their reflections were clearer in this glass, too clear. She could see every detail of her own face, and yet, something in the eyes wasn't hers. Lee stepped closer, drawn to it as though pulled by invisible strings. Her hand reached up, trembling, almost touching the surface. Don't. Clara grabbed her arm. The moment she did, the mirror rippled violently, as if angered. The objects in the room rattled. The shards of glass scraped against each other, shrieking. The hum grew louder until it became a roar. And then, in the reflection, Clara saw something that wasn't in the room. A figure, tall, thin, with skin like cracked porcelain. Its face was smooth except for a wide, gaping mouth that stretched from ear to ear. It stood just behind Lee's reflection, waiting. Clara yanked her back, heart racing, but the reflection didn't vanish. The figure leaned closer in the glass, pressing its face against the surface, leaving a smear of black behind. Jonah swore under his breath. We need to get out, now. But the door they had entered through was gone. The house had sealed them in. The mirror, room pulsed with a life of its own, the humming now a steady throb in their ears. Every reflective surface quivered the shards, the photographs, even the dull shine on the dusty floorboards. Jonah gripped Clara's arm. "It's watching us." Clara's voice shook. "No, it's choosing." Lee backed away, clutching her candle like it was a weapon. But the flame bent toward the mirror just like before, pulled, as though the glass was breathing it in. Then the whispers started again. This time, they weren't in the walls. They came from the mirror itself. Hundreds of voices, speaking in perfect unison, echoing a name. Lee, her candle flickered. She shook her head violently. "No, no, don't say my name." The reflection of Lee in the mirror smiled. Her real self wasn't smiling. The reflection raised its hand and pressed against the inside of the glass. The surface rippled, black veins spreading out like cracks in ice. Clara grabbed Lee's arm, but it was too late. The mirror lunged outward. A hand, pale, thin, too many joints shot through, grabbing Lee's wrist. She screamed, clawing at the floor, but the grip was inhumanly strong. Jonah and Clara tried to pull her back, but the more they fought, the more the mirror dragged. "Don't let go!" Lee shrieked, nails tearing splinters from the floorboards. The figure in the mirror stepped closer, its porcelain face splitting open into that awful ear-to-ear grin. With one violent tug, Lee was yanked forward, her body passing through the glass like water. And then she was gone. The mirror went still, its surface smoothed, showing only Jonah and Clara's horrified reflections staring back. The black smear of a handprint was all that remained. Jonah staggered back, eyes wide. "She's gone. Oh God, she's gone." Clara's heart hammered so hard she thought her ribs would crack. She stumbled toward the walls, pounding her fists against them, screaming for a way out. The house groaned in reply, the sound deep and guttural, like laughter from the earth itself. The mirror pulsed again, as if satisfied, and then, slowly, the reflection of Mason stepped back into view. Only it wasn't Mason anymore. His face was cracked like porcelain, his eyes two black pits. He lifted a finger, pointing directly at Clara. The voices whispered again, louder this time with hunger. "You are next." Jonah grabbed Clara's hand and pulled her away from the central mirror, his voice cracking. "We can't stay here. We'll end up like Lee." They stumbled back into the twisting hallways, the mirror's whispers chasing after them, repeating Clara's name again and again like a taunt. Every surface now seemed reflective. The windows, the old picture frames, even puddles of stagnant water on the floor. And in each one, Mason's hollow-eyed reflection lurked, closer every time. Clara's chest heaved. This isn't a house, it's a cage. Jonah stopped suddenly, his candlelight falling on something ahead. A staircase they hadn't seen before, spiraling down into blackness. The air that rose from below was colder, sharper, carrying the faint scent of blood and rust. "Basement," Jonah whispered. "Maybe there's another door, maybe a way out." Clara didn't want to go down, but the footsteps behind them left no choice. The two descended, the stairs groaning beneath their weight. The basement was vast, larger than it should have been, stretching far into the shadows. Mirrors lined every wall, floor to ceiling, cracked and stained but still reflecting. Dozens, maybe hundreds. and in each one were faces, not their faces, strangers, some old, some young, all trapped inside the glass, pounding silently against the surface, their mouths frozen in endless screams. Clara's stomach twisted. They're the others, the ones who never left. The whispering returned, louder now, filling the basement like a chorus. The mirrors shivered, their surfaces rippling as if the glass were liquid. From the center wall, Mason's reflection emerged again, stepping forward until his face was inches from the surface. Only now, dozens of other reflections crowded behind him, their eyes hollow, their porcelain skin cracked. They pressed against the glass, straining, desperate. Jonah raised his candle like a weapon. "Stay back." The reflections laughed in unison. Mason's copy tilted its head, and the black smear of a smile spread across every face in the mirrors. Clara realized then, the house wasn't haunted by ghosts. The mirrors were feeding on the living one by one, trapping their souls to swell the collection. And now the mirrors were hungry again. The surface of the largest mirror bulged outward, stretching like skin about to tear. A long, pale hand burst through, clawing at the floor, followed by another. The creature from the glass was no longer content to stay inside. It was crossing over. The creature pulled itself from the mirror, its body stretching unnaturally, joints bending the wrong way. The sound of cracking porcelain echoed as it unfolded to its full height, impossibly tall, its head nearly scraping the ceiling. Its mouth opened wide, ear to ear, dripping black liquid that hissed when it touched the ground. Clara and Jonah backed against the far wall, trapped between rows of mirrors. All around them, faces pounded at the glass, screaming silently, their eyes begging for release. Jonah gripped Clara's hand. "We fight it, together." The candle in his other hand flickered, the flame trembling violently as the monster took a step forward. Its long fingers scraped the stone floor, leaving grooves wherever it touched. Clara's mind raced. Fire. Light. It had always hated the candles. Maybe Jonah. "Throw it," she shouted. He didn't hesitate. With a cry, he hurled the candle at the creature. The flame struck its chest, and for a heartbeat the monster recoiled, shrieking in a voice that made the mirrors quake. But then, every flame in the basement snuffed out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Clara couldn't even see her own hands. Only the sound remained, the slithering scrape of porcelain feet, the chorus of whispers closing in. And then silence. A faint glow emerged behind her. Clara turned slowly, heart hammering, and froze. It was Jonah, but not the Jonah standing beside her. Another Jonah stood inside the mirror, smiling. His reflection raised a hand, fingers pressed against the glass. And just like Mason, his eyes were hollow voids. His grin cracked too wide. Clara's breath caught. She looked to her side. Jonah was still there, clutching her hand, trembling. But when she met his eyes, he smiled too. The same cracked, hollow smile. Her scream never escaped her throat. The last thing Clara saw was her own reflection stepping away from her in the glass, lips moving to form a whisper. Not the house, not the mirrors. It had always been her. The glass shattered, and everything went black. Voice calm but chilling, almost a whisper. And that was the last anyone saw of Clara, Jonah, Leith, or Mason. Some say the house still stands, waiting for the next group of curious souls. If you're unlucky enough to find it, be careful where you look. Because in that house, mirrors don't reflect you, they replace you. Skull, if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more terrifying tales. And tell me in the comments, would you dare look into that mirror? Until next time, sleep with the lights on.